Hey, welcome to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and I review fountain pens and related things. And today, I have for you the all-new TWSBI Swipe fountain pen. This is an exciting addition to the TWSBI line. If you're somebody, maybe a new fountain pen user, or somebody who just needs the convenience of being able to use cartridges from time to time, you've been left out of the TWSBI lineup. They've made awesome vac fillers and piston fillers, but never a cartridge pen before. But that changes with the Swipe, which is a cartridge converter pen, and we'll look more closely at those cartridges and converters. And did I say converters? Yes. People, I think they're listening. Not only did they include a converter, there were two in this box. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's flip that camera, take a look at what the pen looks like, some of the features of the pen, and do a writing test, because it doesn't matter what it looks like if it doesn't write. Let's flip that camera. Okay, so here is the TWSBI Swipe, or at least its box, right? Which I think, really nice little sleeve on the box. I like the design of that. Of course, TWSBI, if you're unaware, is made in Taiwan. And let's flip that over. You will notice what it includes: a Swipe fountain pen, a spring converter, a piston converter, an ink cartridge, and then, of course, the website where you can go find out more about TWSBI and their pens. Can you believe that? Did you see that? Two converters. I love that. I don't know why that doesn't stay the same orientation when you go around the box, but I guess I was supposed to flip it a different way. When you pull the box out of the sleeve, it is this nice plastic box. TWSBI does do, I think, a nice job of packaging their pens for those of you who are into packaging. Then you open it up, and this would be in a cellophane sleeve, but I already ditched that, as you probably know. But that is the pen. We'll set that aside for a second. And we don't see, let me go with something you don't see. You don't see a lot of documentation. Usually there are more information in here about the warranty and things like that, but instead we have this very simple diagram of the pen. Optional use with cartridge, not needed during normal use, talking about the spring. And so we'll take a look at that, of course, in English and Chinese. And that's that, okay? That's the packaging. In this package, you get the aforementioned converters, or at least one of them. One of them is in the pen. So let's open this up and check that out. And you have here the piston converter, and it's it's a two-ringed piston, like a lot of actual piston pens are. So that's nice. It looks durable. And what I notice is, and I haven't measured the exact volume of the converter or of the cartridge, but they look like they should hold a really good amount of ink for a piston converter pen. You'll notice there is a little plastic bead in there. Some of you like those, some of you don't, but it's there for you either use or take the converter apart and remove if those things annoy you. And I'm moving ahead of myself. And here is TWSBI's cartridge. Now you'll notice that the neck and the opening are international standard, but that this is a definitely larger cartridge. In fact, let me just go grab an international short right quick so you can see the difference. Okay, so here are the two cartridges side by side, and you notice now huge difference in the volume. I think that this may be a hit with people who like to use cartridges but don't like the smaller volume of an international short. And, international full-size long cartridges are harder to come by than short. Shorts seem to be the most plentiful, at least in my neck of the woods. Now, you will notice that the neck, speaking of neck, is slightly different in length and in diameter, but the opening does work. It will take the international shorts if that's what you've got. So if you're saying, well, I don't like proprietary cartridges, well, me neither, but you can use international shorts in the TWSBI Swipe. So look at the ink versatility you've got. You've got TWSBI large volume cartridges available. You've got international shorts, which just opens up the entire world of ink to you, and you've got that expanded capability of using a converter, and you've got included a piston and a spring converter. So you've got options, and I think that's awesome that they went from having no option for a cartridge converter user, people who prefer those, which certainly do exist, to just the best list of options of any pen that comes immediately to mind. So here is that spring-loaded converter, and it is what it sounds like it is. Very, very simple, and I'll demonstrate it here in a little bit, but you just press down. That's a pretty good strength to that spring, but you just like with the TWSBI Go, you just press down and release, and the ink will fill up. Usually, in two or three of these, you've got a completely full pen, if it works as well as the Go. So that's very, very good. The design of the pen, now let me put that back on since we've talked converters and cartridges. You have this nice clear section. It is different from the Eco and the Go in that this is just cylindrical. There are none of those flat surfaces that you may be used to on an Eco, or especially an Eco T, or on the TWSBI Go. But it has that same good feel, just that slight difference of no flatness. Same good feel. The swell just before you get down to the nib is very similar, and has a good feel. It's a light pen, light plastic pen, similar in feel and weight to a Lamy Safari, similar in size. Let me just address this right quick. If you don't like the trifold grip of the Safari, you probably will want to check this pen out because it is completely round, and now it's also a cartridge converter pen. That may be ticking off the boxes for a few people that wanted a different option. Let's look at that nib. TWSBI uses Jowo nibs. This is a number 4 size, just like in the Go and in the Eco. So if you already know you like their nibs, then this pen is going to perform for you in the same way. So plastic feed, which you can see. Look how clear the acrylic is there so that you can see what's going on. I like that. Good quality acrylic. And nice nib. I have really great luck with Jowo nibs in general and with TWSBI's Jowo nibs, so I have good expectations of this pen. As I said, it is clear, so you can see. You kind of have an ink window there in this blue version. Now, if you get the gray version of this pen, then it's a demonstrator barrel. It is translucent, and so you can actually see the entire pen. So you may want to check that option out if demonstrators are more your thing. But if not, this is a nice blue, and you do still get an ink window to kind of keep track of how you're doing there. Okay, so that is very simple design, but a nice design. Just these simple flat sides, the TWSBI logo, and just a plain end of the barrel. And on the cap, let's talk cap for a second. On the cap, you have this, I don't know, Star Trek Next Generation. That's what it reminds me of. I have no idea why, but it does. Clip. And notice the lack of gap between that clip and the pen. And it is quite stiff metal. So you might have trouble with some thicker cloths in a shirt pocket, for example, getting that over. I don't think you're going to do a notebook at all, but that is what it is. It is a sturdy clip. There's no doubt about that, but not much clearance there. And then, of course, you have the red TWSBI logo as a plastic finial at the top of the cap. The plastic, by the way, very similar to the TWSBI Go, similar to a lot of other plastic pens. Not anything just spectacularly special, but a good, durable knockabout pen. Speaking of the TWSBI Go, I feel like that is where this pen comes from, maybe addressing some things that not everybody likes about the TWSBI Go. Now, I think this is a great pen. I use it as a large pocket pen. It's a great, well, to-go pen. That makes sense, right? And I love how easy it is to fill because the TWSBI Go is, as you can see, a spring piston filler, but not a cartridge filler. That can't be removed at all. It is built into the pen. Pretty easy pen to clean, but not everybody likes the design of this pen. I actually think from a form follows function point of view that this is a very good, underappreciated fountain pen. But if this is just not your thing, perhaps the Swipe will meet your needs in a way that the Go just didn't, or meet your approval design-wise in a way that it just didn't. And of course, it does have a clip where the Go just has a roll stop. But there you go. I think probably this will win over some people that were not as happy with the Go. I'm happy with both of them, frankly. Okay, so there is the TWSBI Swipe. I already have that Prussian blue here, so let's take a look at that while we're there. The 580 is a bit larger pen. Of course, it's a heavier and more complicated pen as well, but that gives you some idea. The Swipe just a little bit shorter than that. This is the ubiquitous TWSBI Eco, and those are very similar in size. So you can kind of tell that there. And mentioned the TWSBI Go already, and you might have already noticed that the TWSBI Swipe is smaller in diameter, but very similar. A little bit longer than the Go, but not by anything that counts. But that gives you an idea of the TWSBI size differences and style differences. Kind of I like the diversity here in these pens. Some things you might cross-shop. The Lamy, this is an All-Star, which is going to be more expensive than the Swipe. Lamy Safari would be as well. This is a little bit cheaper than both those most of the time. Actually, the Swipe, I will say the Swipe is similar in price to what you can get as a good deal on a Lamy Safari, but also includes 2 converters and an ink cartridge. So you're getting a little bit more with those converters than you would on a Lamy Safari. A Lamy Safari converter usually about $5. Not bad for a converter, but it is $5. Then there is a Parker Jotter, and I include this here, very different in style and size, but this is a proprietary cartridge converter pen, much like the Swipe. It includes no converter, and their converters are on the pricier side of most, and their cartridges probably similar in volume because they do usually use longer cartridges from Parker. But there is the Parker Jotter, and then another good, I think this is great for a lot of beginners or people who want particularly to use cartridge converters, would be a Jinhao 51. Uses international cartridges just like the Swipe does, includes a converter of lower volume than the Swipe, can include a Bobby custom nib, which I think makes that a really unique pen, and of course is less expensive even in this nice resin version of the pen. But I think all of these pens compare favorably to one another. All of them very different options, but in the same marketplace. So there you go. There's sizes and some comparisons and some thoughts on competing pens. Now let's see how that Swipe writes. Okay, before we can do the inaugural writing test of the TWSBI Swipe, we do first have to have ink in the pen, and I kind of forgot about that step. I don't know, that's kind of messed up, isn't it? But that's okay, because now you will get to see how the pen fills before the pen writes. And this is a very extremely full bottle of Noodler's Turquoise. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of damage control here. And what I like about this, and this is I'm going to use the spring-loaded converter. As I mentioned, I love the one in the TWSBI Go, and so when they announced that this was going to have a spring-loaded converter, I love that it includes the piston one as well, but I can already tell you this is probably going to be my go-to converter. So you simply, if you're not familiar, you just lower that down, and you need to get above, even though you might think that's too messy, above the top of that grip, or actually I guess it'd be the front of the grip. And that's not bad for the first, usually 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that is full. And that's it. Let me carefully move this to the side and hope that I don't go anywhere near it again while we're getting this cleaned up. And that's it. That's the filling of the pen. It is that uncomplicated. And you just simply put the pen back together and start writing. Isn't that great? So this, I think, is going to be one of the best features of that pen. The fact that you can use a cartridge if you want to, or use, I'm making some of you nervous by talking without putting the lid on. I know I am. But the fact that you can use all these ways of filling the pen, I think it's awesome. Now let's write with that pen. Okay, so the pen does so very securely. It is not the least bit back heavy, so that's always nice. This is the TWSBI Swipe. And if you have kids of a certain age like I do, my kids are teenagers now, but they grew up on Dora. I keep hearing no swiper, no swiping. Oh, that is a remnant of a time. This is a medium steel nib JG3 number 4. And of course, this is Noodler's turquoise, as you saw earlier. Now, it looks to me like it is a fairly wet writer. Oh, yeah, that is a very wet medium. So there you go. And it writes nice and smoothly. It does have, it's interesting to me, JG3 nibs, you kind of know what to expect, but different makers have their pens made to, different specifications by JG3 and things like that. And TWSBI, consistently I notice their nibs, and I think part of it is a function of the materials of the pen in the section, that also makes pens reverberate differently. There's always kind of an audible pencil-like sound to the pen, and I like it. It doesn't bother me in the least, but you hear that? You can hear that, and that's normal for their pens. Always check to make sure James can still count. Hey, every now and then, as you know, if you watch very often, sometimes I fail that test. It happens. So we also like to know whether or not I know at least a quarter of the alphabet. And every now and then, I still remember the order, but I might not remember how to write it properly. There you go. So, nice smooth nib, very wet, and you can see, of course, this ink has a cool wetness to it that gives it some really good color variation. It's one of the things that I like about this. It has some shading and things in it. Very well saturated. And you can see that this wet medium nib takes good advantage of that Noodler's turquoise ink. So, yeah, I like that. You're not going to get any kind of real line variation. That's no pressure at all. Then that's a little, and that's a lot, and there's really not much difference. So don't expect that at all, because that's not what it's really made for. You're going to find that it's just a good, consistent line, and in this medium anyway, a good consistent wet line. So I like how that pen writes. As far as my overall impressions of the pen, this is first impressions, so durability, I think we know some things as far as that, because I'm a TWSBI owner. I've got, as you could see, a few different of their models. I would expect, because it uses many of the same components, such as the nib and feed and things, that it's going to be a very reliable pen. My TWSBIs have all been just rock solid. They're like, the Volvos, especially old Volvos of the pen world, just really, really good. And So as far as that goes, the value proposition. This pen goes right now for about $26, I think, for most retailers. I got mine from Atlas. About the same price everywhere I looked. So I think that is a good price for this pen when you compare it to the competition, like the Lamy Safari, or like even in its own house. The Eco, it's cheaper than the Eco, and it would have to be, because the Eco has a little bit nicer materials than it does, different style. But I think the materials on this are a bit nicer and things like that. It compares a little bit higher than the TWSBI Go, but it offers you something more than the Go. And there are two converters included. You get the equivalent of one of those converters built into the Go, so you're getting a bonus converter. That's worth a few bucks by itself. So, I think it's right in the middle of the market for pens it competes with, whether in or outside of its own manufacturer lineup. So I think the price is fair. It's not particularly cheaper than any others. It's not particularly more expensive than any others. It's just kind of the typical of the market. So that's something to consider. But I think you get a good value for that money, because I think it's going to be a good, durable pen. For some, that clip may be a deal maker or a deal breaker. So that's either a pro or a con on your list, depending on your own use case. That's something that you have to look at and answer. But it writes well, and it gives you some great options. So I would go out and swipe one of those TWSBI Swipes. If I were you, I would recommend the pen, especially if you wanted something with kind of the knockabout durability of a Go, but something that looked maybe a little bit better to you for certain use cases. And then I think that it probably will tick that box. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and thank you for sharing the videos. And tell me in the comments which of these TWSBIs, which of these three would be, if you could only have one, which one of these would it be? God bless you, and have a great week.